Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our webinar titled Mastering Cybersecurity with the QNAP and Backblaze B2. My name is Vinod Subramanian. I'm one of the product marketing managers. I work with Backblaze, and I'll be your host for today's webinar. We are all here because we understand the importance of data and network attached storage devices, especially NAS devices. They provide centralized local storage systems to protect our data, and consumers and also businesses of all sizes have been increasingly adopting NAS devices to securely store their files and documents. On the other hand, we are also seeing an increase in the number of ransomware attacks and also cyber attacks, right? And these cyber criminals, they want us to click on their phishing emails, they want us to download that file, and they want us to somehow get access to our system, our computers, and then they want us to access the entire network, right? And given the fact that NAS devices are connected to our local networks, it is absolutely essential for us to understand how these cyber criminals can get access to NAS devices and then how they can attack these devices. And therefore, our goal for today is to help all of us understand what are the different ways cyber criminals can target NAS devices, and then what we can do to help prevent these attacks. So, to help us understand the same, I have with me our senior solutions engineer from Backblaze. Hey, Danny, thanks for joining us today. So, Danny has more than 18 years of experience working with companies and organizations of different sizes to help them protect their data. Hey, Danny, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
And we also have our NAS expert, Daniel from QNAP. And Daniel has been with QNAP for more than 6 years. And Daniel has also been working with and helping a lot of different organizations and companies to protect their data on the NAS device. Hey, Daniel, happy to have you here.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Thank you. So by the end of this webinar, our goal is to help you learn these three things. First, we would like you to understand the increasing ransomware landscape and the importance of why we need to secure our NAS devices. I'm not sure if you guys could see this, but I have a NAS device that is placed here, and I definitely want to make sure that I protect my NAS device. And then you will also learn the 3-to-1 backup strategy for protecting our NAS devices. And then finally, you will also learn the actionable strategies that you can take in order to protect your NAS from ransomware. And before we begin, here is a quick disclaimer. So this webinar is a hybrid webinar, meaning there will be live interactions like this, and then there will also be a recorded demo. And finally, we'll close out the webinar with a live Q&A. And I would like to once again thank you all for joining the webinar. Please participate and ask questions. And before we begin, I would like to understand how you use your NAS devices. So what I'm going to do right now is to quickly start the poll. So you will see the poll below the video for about like 30 to 50 seconds. Please take a few seconds and then answer how you use your NAS device. Is it for personal use? Is it for home use? Or do you use NAS device for small to medium business use? Or is it for enterprise related use? Or you can also let us know if you haven't adopted NAS yet. So this will help us create our upcoming webinars accordingly. This will help us create our content planning accordingly so that we are in a better position to help and serve you all. So I have been seeing some awesome responses coming in. So 66% of you use NAS for small to medium business use. About 33% of them use for personal use, and 9% of you use for enterprise use. So thank you so much for the participation. I really, really appreciate that. With that said, let me make sure I end the poll. Okay. With that said, here is the agenda. First, I would like Danny to walk us through the ransomware landscape. And after that, Daniel will walk us through the different ways cyber criminals can target NAS devices and what we can do in order to protect these devices from these cyber attacks. And after that, Danny will go through the 3-to-1 backup strategy to securely protect NAS data offsite in the cloud. And then finally, Daniel will go through the hybrid backup sync demo. And finally, we'll close up with the practical steps to get started. So, with that, Danny, I would like to begin this session with you. Just walk us through about ransomware, what ransomware is, and walk us through how ransomware works, and walk us through the landscape of ransomware that we are currently seeing in the marketplace.
Absolutely. And thank you, everyone, for joining. If you have any questions, please ask them. We're here to help you get as much information as possible to have you understand what ransomware is doing today. And the reason why QNAP and Backblaze put together gives you a solid foundation to be able to get these ransomware attackers to not basically get all information encrypted and have multiple copies of it to be able to have it for your customers. I see a lot of people from the polls, they're using it for SMB business and also enterprise use. So SMB business is one of the biggest targets that's happening now. And since COVID, because everyone was working from home, it became an issue with emails, downloads, just like Vinod said, and also with network access, right? Because not everyone's home has firewalls and things like that to be able to help you support the security for your NAS devices. So having multiple copies of your data and also having the ability to have them immutable, which works with QNAP and Backblaze, helps you protect your data. So a lot of customers, if you see from the slides here, it says that 75% attack small and medium businesses. And the reason why is because the infrastructure on small and medium businesses is not as vast as an enterprise. They don't have the big enough teams. They don't have full security teams to be able to help attack the ransomware or protect the ransomware attacks that are coming to them. Most small businesses, if they cannot be up and running within 23 days, go out of business. And this is where now cyber insurance came into the realm, is that most companies now have to get cyber insurance. And to have cyber insurance, you have to be able to follow a 3-2-1 backup to be able to get some type of cyber insurance to protect you and your customers that you're protecting. Remember, data is something that you might not need it today, but you might need it tomorrow. So you have to have the ability to be able to get that data back, when you need it, not when you want it. It's when you need it. As you can see, the cost of ransomware by 2031 is going to be $250 million. And this is only growing more and more each day. So what is ransomware, right? We already spoke about email phishing. We spoke about downloads and things like that. So basically, it's a malware virus that attacks and infiltrates your systems. And it can attack in any different way. It can attack your shares. It can attack your servers, your personal PCs, anything that's connected to a network that they have access to. Once they infiltrate the network, they now have access to multiple appliances and applications across your environment. That's where the encryption happens. Now, encryption, as soon as encryption happens, it starts locking your files. You have no access to your files. That's why having a 3-2-1 backup strategy helps a lot. You get the ransomware notes. Now they're sending you emails that they want you to basically pay the money. At that point, you're a victim. And what we're trying to do here today is we're trying to give you enough information to have you understand how easy it is and how quickly you can get set up where if this does happen to you, you don't have to have any issues, because between QNAP and Backblaze, we're going to have you covered. So what are some of the ransomware common targets? As you can see from the slide here, public sector and professional services are one of the biggest things, right? Those companies are what make the majority of businesses in the United States and around the world. So they're going to target those customers first, because those customers are probably the ones that have a less of a security on their network and are probably the ones that are going to pay to get their data back. Now, here's the issue. So you can pay. That doesn't mean you're going to get your data back. A lot of these ransomware attacks, they're the way that they're encrypted. Some of them don't even have the decrypting technology to be able to decrypt it. So they literally just go in there, encrypt all your data, and now you're stuck. So you can pay them back, but more than half of the ransomware attacks that get paid, users do not get their data back. So, having the 3-2-1 backup strategy is only going to make your infrastructure safer and more solid to be able to get that data back, moving forward. So, Daniel, how can we, with the NAS devices, what can we do to be able to have the ability to have customers feel comfortable that they'll be able to get their data back?
Yeah, so on a NAS, of course, you could have the NAS automatically back up to Backblaze, but also on the NAS. Well, why don't I start off with what makes NAS vulnerable, and then how to not have your NAS be so vulnerable.
Absolutely.
So NAS are often a target because they're centralized storage. So if a small business keeps all their centralized storage and hackers get it, they have something valuable they can use for extortion. If NAS have outdated firmware, they don't have the latest security patches, so they're more likely to get hit. And particularly if you set direct internet access through forwarded ports, that is the number one thing that makes the NAS vulnerable. For example, if you forward the HTTPS port, then it's really easy from anywhere in the world to get into your login page. But it's also really easy for any hacker from anywhere in the world to get to your login page. And even if you have a strong username and password, it's still not considered secure to let every hacker get to your login page. So there are much more secure ways to have remote access, our QLink, there's VPN. And so number one thing is just don't forward those ports in that way. But people do that, and that's the number one reason for NAS getting hit. But also default configuration, especially if you have an older NAS, like back in the day, the default username was admin, default password was admin. That's not secure at all. If you have an older NAS with those older defaults, especially weak credentials, and if you neglect security updates, I just want to mention on a QNAP, you can automate firmware updates to get those automatic security patches very quickly. And of course, just not being aware of the problem, what you need to do. And because a lot of NAS and small business are just managed by people in the business who may not be IT professionals, sometimes they don't always set things up in the most secure way, and that can make NAS an easy target, especially through the port forwarding. That's the number one insecure thing that some people do.
And real quick, Daniel, so exactly what you said back in the day. So back in the day, NAS devices were internal use only. Now with the ability to be able to access them externally, it opens up even more security risk for the users that are using NAS devices. The password stuff. I mean, I remember my grandfather used to use password as a password when he had his stuff. So I totally understand that, and it's good that QNAP has the ability to have those security features in place. So moving forward, customers can have their data more secure.
Yeah. So some ways to protect your NAS. Regular backups with versioning. And I do like to stress the with versioning because, if you have a backup without versioning, if you get infected, your file's encrypted. Then before you notice you're infected, you do the automatic backup. Back up your encrypted files to your backup. Have 2 copies of your encrypted files and your backup's no good. But backup with versioning is great because even if you fail to recognize you were hit before the next scheduled backup, you can go to your backup and just restore a previous version, or you can also set up versioning on your NAS and also go to your NAS, restore a previous version to get those files back in the version before they were encrypted. So versioning is very important. Backup is very important. Set just automatic firmware updates, a great way to get those security patches very quickly. Strong credentials. We even support 2-factor authentication. And we now recommend disable the default admin account, so have a different username. And then, of course, strengthen access controls, like set up network access protection so that if you have, say, 5 failed login attempts, your whole IP gets blocked. So some hacker can't just guess password after password after password after password. We'll just block them. And then number one, don't expose your NAS to the internet through open ports. I know it can sound easy, just forward that HTTPS port. Great, anywhere in the world, get my login page. But Q-Link is also very easy. We have a Q-Link feature so that from anywhere in the world through your MyQNAP cloud account, you can get to your NAS, and that doesn't require any forwarded ports. And that way you have access to your NAS without giving every hacker access to your login page. We also have QVPN, so you can use VPN to get access to your NAS. We support Tailscale VPN. Tailscale is an extremely easy to set up VPN. You can have an office VPN. So there's many secure ways of remote access besides just forwarding those ports. And then set up that 3-2-1 backup strategy and use object lock, because what I had mentioned is something that potentially could happen is you get ransomware, don't realize you get ransomware, do the next scheduled backup. Now you back up your encrypted files. Now your versioning protects against that, but so does object lock. Object lock means that your backup cannot be modified. So you do object lock 30 days. If you get ransomware, the ransomware cannot encrypt that backup for 30 days. And so let's talk about the 3-2-1 backup strategy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you mentioned the last point that you made there about object lock. So object lock now is the new thing to have, right? Security changes all the time. And what's happening is even though you have multiple copies of your data, depending on the way the ransomware attacks, doesn't mean they can't change any data. With object lock, they cannot change any of the data, which means if you're following the 3-2-1 backup strategy and have data on site and off site, it gives you the ability with object lock to have that ransomware attacker stop at a certain point. And even if they do infiltrate your whole network and all the data you have on site, having object lock enabled in Backblaze and having QNAP using the 3-2-1 backup strategy with object lock enabled also, it basically gives you like a fortress of having your data locked and not being able to change, right? And that's what's good, because like I said before in the first slide, most companies take over 23 days to come back up. That doesn't count from when they find out they have the ransomware, right? So it could take them a few days. Sometimes, most of the times, it's like a week or two. So now you're talking 23 days from that. So having object locked for, let's say, 30 days gives you 30 days of your data locked there, and it's unchangeable. So even if you do miss your backup windows, and you're backing up and you are backing up the ransomware attack or the encrypted files, it doesn't matter, because with object lock, those files can't be changed. So when you need those files, you'll be able to retrieve them, even though everything else is still running on a day-to-day basis. But let's go real quick into 3-2-1 backup strategy. So 3-2-1 backup strategy, in reality, it's a basic concept. It's a backup strategy that has 3 copies, and each of those copies are protected. The copies are stored in 2 different types of media. It could be a NAS device, a USB hard drive. It could be an array. It can be any of those things. And then one of those copies has to be offsite. And that's where QNAP and Backblaze integration works really, really well. It's super simple to set up. And having the ability to have object lock enabled on an offsite location like Backblaze, you can get your data when you need it and not have to wait the 2 weeks to find out you've been attacked, and 23 days, and that's average 23 days to be able to get your data. You'd be able to log in and get your data quickly via the QNAP. So I said this before. Basically, it's having multiple copies of your data. We understand, especially when it comes to SMB businesses, having multiple copies of your data becomes very costly, right? But the only thing is, to be able to support a business and keep the business open, it's going to cost you more if you get attacked and cannot retrieve your data than it would be to have object lock enabled through a QNAP and have multiple copies of your data with having one offsite in the cloud at Backblaze. So really quick, I'm going to, before we go into the demo, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Backblaze and what we do. So with Backblaze, we tend to say that we are astonishingly easy to use. We're 75% cheaper than most of the well-known cloud providers. We were founded in 2007 and now have over 2.5 exabytes of storage data under our management. And data is only growing faster. So we're going to be over 3 exabytes or 4 very, very quickly. We have multiple regions around the world, and we have the ability to offer QNAP customers affordable, cost-effective storage at a budget-friendly rate. right? So that's what we hold ourselves to. We not only work with small and medium businesses, but we also do a lot of enterprise work. Coming to Backblaze, what makes it very good for customers is that we can scale up and down with your needs. So if you're an SMB and you have multiple customers, you may only have 10 customers this year, but next year you may have 20 or 30 customers. Backblaze will grow with you. There's no need to have to allocate space or anything else like that, because you can always just purchase more cloud storage to be able to use. The QNAP and Backblaze integration makes it easy to be able to have your data when you need it in real time. So we're hot storage. We don't have multiple tiers. And the reason why we don't have that is because we don't want you to have a PhD in math to figure out how to put your costs together for egress and transaction fees and deletion penalties, like a lot of the other cloud vendors have. So we want to make it super simple for you, so you can have your OpEx done every single year, super simple, because we are not an a la carte company. All our features that we have in our product are offered to you at the same rate. So if it's a feature like encryption or a feature like object lock, we're not going to charge you additional for that, because it's included inside of our product.
So when it comes to QNAP NAS, we have a variety of NAS from 1 bay to 24 bay, and our 24 bay can take expansions up to petabytes. So we have the different sizes you need. You want a little 2 bay for your small business or home, we've got it. You want a mid-size NAS, we've got it. So we can offer big or mid-size or small centralized storage. And this allows just everyone in your office to access the same files at the same time. A single network drive could be mapped onto hundreds of devices. So that makes it very convenient. And on-premise storage means you're not limited by internet speed. So even though cloud backups make a lot of sense, there are cases when you might want to access that storage at faster than the speed of your internet. So a NAS can be great to have for that fast centralized storage, fast backups, fast access. And we have great data protection features. For example, we have RAID redundancy, so that you could have multiple drives fail on the NAS without losing any data. And on our NAS that run our QUTS Hero, we support higher levels of RAID redundancy, like triple parity. 3 drives can fail, no data loss. Data self-healing and copy on write for extra protection against data corruption. And we have multiple apps. We have more than 100 apps, so that makes a QNAP, even though it's primarily storage, it can do so much more. So it can be your NVR, because we have an NVR app, QVR Pro. For a home user, it could be Plex Media Server. We can run virtual machines for like a home lab. There's more than 100 applications, so a QNAP can do so many different things with that storage. And we have robust security features. So Security Counselor will actually tell you how to set up your NAS in a secure way, and it'll give you warnings. Like if you forward that HTTPS port using the standard port, it'll actually warn you that's not secure. And just telling you how to secure your NAS in a secure way is very helpful. We have a malware remover as well. We have antivirus. We have a firewall, QU firewall, and we have features for secure remote access. So like QVPN, QLink, Tailscale VPN. So many security features and a user-friendly interface. So our application, which will allow you to back up to Backblaze and do the 3-to-1 backup strategy, is HBS3. So this can do a backup to Backblaze, a one-way sync to Backblaze, two-way sync to Backblaze. It can do the 3-to-1 backup strategy because it can also back up to another QNAP. And it supports object lock, so that if you do your backup to Backblaze, even if you were hit with ransomware, the ransomware cannot encrypt or mess up your data during the time that it's locked. And you can set how long you want it locked for, 30 days, 60 days, whatever you choose. So now we're going to show a demo of how to use QNAP with Backblaze.
Using our HBS3 app. Our HBS3 app can easily be downloaded from the App Center. So from here I can see my apps, the apps I've already put on my NAS, and all apps shows all the apps I could easily add to my NAS by just clicking install. But HBS3 is already on this NAS, so I'll just open it. From the overview, you can see your backup jobs. I already have a backup job to Backblaze B2, but I'm going to make a new one. I select the folder on my QNAP that I'd like to back up to Backblaze B2. I select Backblaze B2. I can add a new account by just adding key ID and application key, but I already have this set up, so I'll just click that, select. I could make a new bucket by just making a bucket name, and I would suggest enabling object lock. This can be a great protection against ransomware, and I'll go into that later. But these are the buckets I already have set up, so I'm just going to select bucket 4. As you see, bucket 4 has shown up here in Backblaze, so I can just select that to back up to it. From here, I can see the number of subfolders in my QNAP folder that I'm about to back up, number of files, and the amount of data I'm about to back up to Backblaze B2 bucket 4. From here, I can choose no schedule. I could choose a schedule, either periodic, like every 10 minutes, every hour, or whatever. I could do daily, weekly, monthly as well. Another option is to run, not to run at a certain time, but to run after another backup job finishes. So if I have, let's say, 2-3 backup jobs, perhaps I want to run this backup job as soon as the other one finishes. For now, though, I'm going to select no schedule. We have version management. Versions can be great protection against ransomware because if your QNAP were to get hacked, then if it has encrypted files, then you back up those encrypted files. Now you have encrypted files in your backup. But if you have versions, then you can always get the previous version of your backup before there were encrypted files. So this is one of the protections against ransomware. You could do simple versions, say maybe take a version every hour, for example, up to about 65,000 versions, or smart versioning, maybe a version every hour for 100 hours, version every day 100 days, version every week 100 weeks, version every month 100 months. It's up to you. We have data integrity check. So this is just a great way of being especially sure that your backup is free from corruption, that it really just checks every block to really do that parity check, just to make sure that your backup job is good. Is that to be extra especially sure that it's good. Doing that extra check, it does make the backup a little bit slower, but it's still a nice feature to have. So in here we have the option to do data compression and deduplication. This causes your backup job to take up less space. And this could be a money-saving feature because typically in the public cloud you're charged based off how much space you use, and this can make your backups take less space. But one thing to keep in mind though is this is more or less archiving your backup, and once you do that, once you compress or dedupe, you can't just simply read your files from your backup destination. This concept is very similar, at least in concept, to like zipping a folder or something, where it takes up less space, but you would then have to unzip it to access those files. In this case, you would have to extract it to access the file. So if you use compression or deduplication, if you need to access those files, you likely download your whole backup job to your NAS or download your whole backup job to your computer, where then you can use the extraction tool on your computer or your NAS to access those files. If you don't use compression or deduplication, you can directly read the files from your backup destination. So something else to mention in policies is we can do client-side encryption. So from here you set your password and verify your password, but please be advised you do not want to lose your password. If you lose your password, you will likely never get this data. But this is another level of protection. If somehow someone hacked into your cloud backup, they would not be able to read that data because it's encrypted. Just be absolutely sure you do not lose that password. And then something else I think is very important to mention is the ability to override object lock default settings. So here you set how many days your backup is immutable. So this also is a protection against ransomware, because if ransomware is attempting to encrypt your files, well, even if it hacks in, if your files are immutable for say 30 days, that means for 30 days, ransomware would be unable to modify or encrypt those files. So this adds an extra layer of safety. So having versioning in your backup job as a layer of safety, so that even if your backup got encrypted, you can just revert to a previous version. But object lock is an extra layer of safety by making it so that for 30 days you can't encrypt this. So these two features are great protection against ransomware. So the last thing I just have to do here is click Create to do the backup job.
I love the way how QNAP was able to show a demo that quickly. So this is what we wanted to show everyone, that within 10 minutes, QNAP and Backblaze can have you securing your backups and your data fairly quickly. Anyone that has a QNAP device has all these features available to them in the App Store. So there's no additional software. There's no additional things that you need because everything is integrated in QNAP. Having the ability to have Backblaze with all the features enabled without having an a la carte type style menu just makes it even easier, because all you have to do is create an account and get QNAP hybrid sync set up, and you'll be literally backing up to the cloud and securing your data in under 10 minutes.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Danny and Daniel, for the introduction to 3-to-1 backup and also the demo on how hybrid backup sync can quickly and easily connect QNAP NAS to the Backblaze B2 cloud. So with that, here is how you can get started with the 3-to-1 backup approach. First, Daniel, I would like to understand this from you as a NAS expert. When I was purchasing, when I was looking for a NAS device, there were so many considerations that I would need to think about, especially in terms of the amount of data that I had and the amount of data that I'm going to accumulate in the upcoming days, months, and years. And then I would also need to think about some of the network settings, some of the speed, my internet bandwidth, and things like that. So I would like to understand from you, what are the different items that one should think about and think through before they make a QNAP NAS purchase, or a
Yeah.
NAS purchase for that matter?
So often the first thing is your storage requirements, how much storage, because we can go from 1 bay to 24 bay with expansions. We can go up to 5 petabytes on one NAS, but some people only need just like 10 terabytes. So just what size NAS you're going to get, what size drives are you going to get. So compute power, it doesn't take a very powerful NAS to back up to Backblaze, but you might have local performance requirements, because if Backblaze is more your backup, some people need to locally access data a lot faster. Depends who you are. Like if you're a video editor, you probably need a lot of throughput to your local storage. So like edit 4K, 8K video. You need a file server. How many people accessing those files? Size of those files. So this is related to performance needs. So compute power of the NAS affects performance needs. The speed of the drives affects performance needs. Besides that, there is your network infrastructure. Do you have 2.5 gig, 10 gig, 25 gig? And these all kind of come together, because you could have 25 gig, but only like 4 HDDs, and there's no way you're going to get 25 gig of speed, right? You could have a bunch of HDDs and 25 gig, but like a weak ARM processor, and you won't even max out 10 gig, because the power of the processor affects the throughput and IOPS of your NAS as well. It's not just the network interface, but it's all these together. And then security features. So QNAP has great security features if you use them, but it's important to actually use them and have a secure setup, because you don't want to lose your data. And then there's plenty of additional resources, and here are links for some resources.
So here are some additional resources on NAS 101 guide, a buyer's guide to the features and the capacity that you would require. And then we also have another detailed guide, in-depth guide on NAS RAID levels to make sure that there is data redundancy within the NAS. Therefore, definitely make use of these guides. I'll just keep this on the screen for a couple more seconds so that you can quickly scan the QR code. And after the webinar, we'll also send a follow-up email with these resources, obviously. And now let's say if they already have a NAS device, how can they quickly get started in minutes with Backblaze B2? Danny, would you like to? Yeah.
Yeah, so getting started with Backblaze is super simple. You go to our website, you create an account, and you pick the region you want to be in. Once you have those two things, all you got to do is have a password, and you'll have an account created in Backblaze fairly quickly. Creating a bucket and application keys that you'll need to put into QNAP is also super self-explanatory, and you'll be able to have the bucket and everything ready to go within a few minutes. Having the ability, as you saw in the demo, to connect Backblaze to QNAP is also very simple, and then setting up the HBS. Daniel, is there anything else you think I'm missing?
No, I think you said that pretty well.
Yeah,
Awesome.
and you saw, Vinod, like creating a backup job was, he did in a demo, super simple. And what I like is that it was self-explanatory also, right? You go through the steps, you get everything ready. As long as you know all your compliance needs, you can start using QNAP and Backblaze in literally under 10 minutes.
Absolutely. Awesome. So here are the next steps. You can get started with a 3-to-1 backup approach. If you don't already have a NAS, definitely visit qnap.com, and they do have different types of NAS devices to serve different types of needs and requirements. And after you get a NAS, you can obviously go to Backblaze B to create your account and get started with your 3-to-1 backup approach. And post this session, we are also going to send you some additional resources, especially NAS cybersecurity resources, to give you some additional information and guidance on how you can better protect your NAS from the cyber criminals and ransomware attacks. So with that, we have come to the end of this webinar. Thank you both, Danny and Daniel. And we have some interesting and exciting questions that keep coming in. So let's just begin the Q&A session. So why should I consider a NAS when we use a service like Backblaze?
So I'll start with that.
Yeah, you can go ahead, Daniel.
So Backblaze is great, but no matter how great Backblaze is, you will never experience it faster than your internet. And so, are you paying for 100 megabit, 250 megabit, gigabit? Are you paying for 10 gigabit? That's very expensive internet. And so, how fast is your internet? How much do you want to pay for really fast internet? If you have a QNAP, you can now access those files as fast as the QNAP and your network switches. So you could get a 10 gig switch. We even sell 25 gig affordable switches. We have units that can push those 25 gig speeds and some even faster. So if you want that fast local access storage without paying huge amounts of money for crazy fast internet, the QNAP can be a great thing to have. And so that hybrid of QNAP that backup to Backblaze is a great solution, especially when you want that fast file server. If you're a video editor, want to edit things fast, you have a VMware environment, you need a place for iSCSI Lens, so you need that local access. A lot of applications need that local access, but still want that backup in the cloud.
Right, and Backblaze, I mean, to answer more about that, is we're also object storage, right? So you can use this for application data, you can use this for archival, data backup, media entertainment. But the thing is that we're object storage, so we're still going to need an integration with someone like QNAP to be able to move that data. I mean, we work with thousands of integrations, but QNAP and having the ability to have everything on site on the QNAP and being able to back up your data to the cloud just gives you another approach at your 3-to-1 backup strategy.
Awesome. Thank you both. And here is the next question. Let's assume that you're not opening emails and you're not opening compromised websites. Are you secure to ransomware attack?
Not necessarily. It depends. So from the QNAP side, if you, for example, forwarded a bunch of ports, like forwarded HTTPS, maybe you don't forward emails, but the moment you forward HTTPS, every hacker can get to your login page. And you might say, I have a secure username and password, but it's still not considered safe to let every hacker have access to your login page or forwarding the HTTPS port. If you forward those ports, there are still security measures, so you still might be okay, but it's definitely taking chances. So there's many other ways that a person can be threatened, but there's also good ways to keep your setup very secure.
Awesome. Thank you. We have been getting questions that keep on coming, but if you are not able to address any of your questions, we'll make sure to respond back to you with the answers. And here is one more question. What was the VPN that was easy to set up that you just said?
Yeah, so we support both QVPN and Tailscale VPN. So Tailscale is extremely easy because it automatically just sets up the VPN tunnels for you. But for a small business, there could be some cost. And then QVPN is completely free, but you do have to do some manual things like share seek, whatever. It's more of a manual setup with QVPN. And then QLink is not a VPN, but it's remote access through more of like a relay, and that works very, very easy to set up, and it does not involve any port forwarding.
Okay, Danny, you can take this. Is object log the same as immutable backups?
Absolutely. So object lock and immutable are the same thing. And I was actually about to mention that because a lot of other questions that are coming up here too is one was posted of should encryption and object lock happen on Backblaze, the NAS, or both? So usually you don't want to have encryption on multiple levels. And the reason why is because it only slows down your backups or the data transfer process, right? Usually the integration like QNAP would be the one to manage the encryption and the object lock on their end, enabled on the Backblaze side. So usually you don't enable it on both sides, you enable it on one side. And because QNAP is the mastermind or the head behind this whole thing, you would let QNAP manage all that stuff because you don't want to slow down your backups. You don't want to impede your performance, right? So you would let QNAP handle all that kind of encryption and object lock on their side.
Okay, so we have an interesting question here. Looks like one of our attendees here, they got attacked with ransomware last year, especially on their NAS, and now they have unplugged their NAS from the internet so that it is not connected to the internet, obviously, and they are asking if it is still possible to back up their NAS, which is not connected to the internet, to Backblaze B2.
Well, the setup I usually suggest is the NAS is connected to the internet, but ports are not forwarded to the internet. And that means the NAS can call out, but outside people can't call in. So if you want to call in, you can set up VPN or QLink. So if you want remote access, you can still have it, but otherwise don't let people call in. If the NAS can call out, but people can't call in, the NAS can call out to Backblaze and do the backup. And so that's typically how I set it up. Now, of course, if you have no connection to the internet whatsoever, then you're not going to back it up to Backblaze. But I think it's a pretty good setup. NAS can call out to Backblaze, but people outside can't call in.
Right, and to add to that, so we also have universal data migration, and what that is we have a NAS that we send to you, which we call the Fireball. And that Fireball, obviously, you don't have to have internet to because you can connect directly to your QNAP NAS, back up all the data onto that, and then we'll move it for you onto the cloud. Now, the only thing, like Daniel said, is you still have to have some type of internet connection to be able to keep updating your QNAP into the cloud. What we do, though, is especially when it comes to ransomware attacks, when customers see that they need a cloud copy, we can offer them a Fireball, so they can, instead of trying to move everything through the internet while they're trying to clean up everything in their infrastructure while they just got attacked, they can use a Fireball to be able to put that data on the Fireball, send us back the Fireball, and we can transfer that data from the Fireball into the cloud, and then the customer can relink their QNAP backup directly to the cloud.
Awesome. So there is a question on the RAID level. So at the end of the session, after the session, we'll just send you further information on NAS 101 guide and also cybersecurity resources along with the NAS RAID post link as well. So that will walk you through the different RAID levels and how you can choose a RAID level that better suits your requirements and needs. And is there a way or method to back up the NAS applications or virtual machines to Backblaze?
I don't think we have a good way to back up apps and virtual machines to Backblaze. I think we primarily set this up to back up your data.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And how can NAS storage snapshots fit into this 3-to-1 backup strategy?
Well, snapshots are versioning. So if your NAS were to get hit and they encrypt your data, then if you have snapshots, in almost every case, you could then just revert your data, just load the snapshot and say, make my data like it was the day before I got ransomware. And then you have your data. So versioning is a great thing to have. And I recommend versioning locally on your NAS and versioning in Backblaze.
Yeah, and Backblaze also offers a region-to-region replication. So if you want to have your data in multiple regions, you'll be able to replicate the data across different regions, so you have the ability to use it also.
Awesome. Well, we are almost 1 minute above the allocated time. So thank you so much, Danny and Daniel. We still have a couple of questions that keep coming in. So we'll make sure to address all these questions and then send you a response. So thank you all so much for joining the webinar today. Thank you, Danny, and thank you, Daniel, for sharing your expertise to help NAS users like me to understand how we can better protect our NAS from ransomware attacks. So thank you so much. And I hope to see you guys all soon. Thank you.
Right.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.